Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu podcast, ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. We're talking about ADCC 2022. My name's Adam Childs with my boy, Kieren Lefebvre.
What?
Kieren was just over there scratching his head at my intro, being like, what is going on?
What the fuck is he talking about?
I'll mix it up, bro. Can't be the same every time.
Mix it up.
Yeah, so we're going to, this is not, we're not a news outlet, so...
What?
It's like,
hang on a minute.
So this is not a blow-by-blow recap of ADCC 2022. It is more of a post-ADCC. Let's talk about some of the standouts in ADCC, some of the maybe disappointing things, some of the upsets, what we thought of it, and just shoot the shit as we always do on this show.
Yeah, 100%. First up, I want to ask, Adam, what do you think of it if you were to summarize holistically? Don't go into specifics because that's what this episode's about, but like, did it live up to your expectation? What did you think about the event, the production, some of the matchups, the way it was run?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I didn't see as much of it as I would have liked. For the international listeners, being in Australia, day one started at like
3 a.m.
3 in the morning.
Yep.
Like Friday night, Saturday morning for us here, 3 a.m. Saturday is when it started. And so I wasn't awake for that. And then even when I did wake up, I teach classes Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon I'm with my 3-year-old. And then Sunday was more or less the same. The finals started at 5 a.m. and then pretty much went all through Sunday.
Yeah, it was a whole day.
Yeah, it was like the whole day.
Yep.
So if I didn't have a 3-year-old, it would have been fine. I could have spent my whole Sunday watching it. But I watched it when I could while looking after a 3-year-old. But
sorry, just to clarify, it was the Sunday that...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Move that all one day forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the...
Sunday, day one. The Monday. Monday was actually
bad.
day two.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I didn't have to teach classes on a Monday and in between my classes look after a 3-year-old, it would have been great because the timing was fine. It's starting at 5 a.m. and then going all day. So I didn't see as much of it as I would have liked, but what I did see and what I've rewatched and everything was awesome. I really liked I didn't have any, even the event aside, talking about other things like the platform as in flow grappling, I didn't have any issues with the streams. I don't know if other people did. So it all ran fine for me. I did hear, and you can probably talk about this, because I watched it so often I watched the matches on mute as well because, again, I had a 3-year-old with me.
Yeah.
I've heard a few people in the gym bagging on this commentator that they had on. So
Wait, the commentator or the announcer?
Announcer, sorry.
Oh, the chick announcer. Yeah, the from Brazil.
Yeah. so I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, man.
But the event as a whole was
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think one of the parts I did see that you didn't see was the Hall of Fame part where they were giving out the Hall of Fame awards and the speeches.
Yeah.
And there was this point that Hoyler Gracie was receiving his award, and he said, not comparing myself to him, but I just agree with what he was saying. He said something along the lines of, man, you can't compare, people like to compare different generations or whatever. You can't compare what, I was doing and we were doing to these guys. He goes, yeah, in my time, what I was doing was great. He goes, but man, what these people are doing today, it's absolutely amazing. Like and yeah, man, I agree. Like what was happening in those matches and the quality of the jiu-jitsu and the level of these guys, dude, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And for me, at least for me, the matches that I watched, I think ADCC is, compared to other competitions, relatively harsh on penalizing lack of action.
Yep.
So there weren't, compared to other jiu-jitsu tournaments, whether it is who's number one or, IBJJF or whatever, there wasn't a lot of matches that you would call your typical snooze fest You know, like, okay, not every
Yep.
single match was a banger, of
Yep.
course. Not every single match was a submission, but as a whole,
I agree.
man, like think about just how hard it is to get a ticket to ADCC. So you're talking a lot of high level dudes. As a whole, the event was really cool. Like I said, I didn't have any issues with the stream. In saying that, I didn't spend the whole 48 hours nonstop watching it.
Oh, I did.
Yes, I know. You came into class on Monday night.
Man, I was
yeah,
getting
so
after
it was Monday day, as
Yes.
you corrected me.
Yeah.
That it was actually on for us, and you came in Monday night like
Fired up, man.
fired up, ready to go.
It's giving me goosebumps just thinking about it, man. Like because we spent so much time talking about it, thinking about it, you know, and off air we shoot the shit about it. It's such a big thing in Adam is doing shameless plugs on some random products.
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't have any sponsors, but
for those that are just listening, he's trying to like, I don't know, drink a drink in a overt way to sponsor it. Total fucking rant. Anyway, so we're always talking about ADCC leading into it. Such a big hype in our little like sphere. And there was so much like controversy. I watched all of the Flow grappling lead ups, the road to ADCC, their features, which are amazing production value from Flow grappling. So shout out, like we give them shit, but hell man, they put on a really good show and the lead up to it was great. So I had so much hype and man, it lived up to it in my opinion. Like, yeah, okay. I want to push back a little bit. There was, in my opinion, there were a couple matches that were fucking boring, and like I'm mad about it still because of how boring they were.
Yeah,
and
perhaps I didn't see these matches because I didn't watch every single match.
Exactly. There was some that were like so disappointing, which we're going to talk about. But I'd say over 90% of the matches were absolute bangers, man. Like even the ones that went the distance, went even into overtime, and it was a ref's decision with 0-0. Some of those, even those matches where like literally no one scored. Amazing, like highest quality jiu-jitsu I've ever seen in my life. And it made me feel so insignificant, like so shit. Yeah. Like someone that is competitive, I watch it and I think, oh my God, this is amazing jiu-jitsu. But I also think, holy shit, I am literally I'm the shittest guy ever. Like I am so bad at jiu-jitsu, it's not even funny. But you're right, the level of it is unprecedented. We've never seen so much talent for jiu-jitsu in one place at one time, and it lived up to every ounce of hype that ADCC 2022 had. It fucking lived up to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was really good.
So let's talk about some matches.
Yeah, so let's just do, because I know we'll obviously go down, little rabbit holes and whatever. So just to quickly go over who the winners were of ADCC. So if anyone's
spoilers,
I guess, yeah. So should say that if people are listening to this and they haven't even watched it yet and they don't want to know who won or whatever, I'll just quickly read out who won, right? So everyone's up to speed if you're just wanting to know who won which division or whatever. And then we'll go into more detail. So 66 kilo, we had Diogo Hayes. 77 kilo, we had Cade Rotolo. 88 kilo, Giancarlo Bodoni. 99 kilo, Kainan Duarte. 100 kilo, Gordon Ryan. 60 kilo females was Fionn Davies. And the plus 60 kilo females was Amy Campo. Right. So, and then, the absolute was Yuri Simoins. Yeah. So they were the ADCC winners. If you just wanted to know, I don't know who won. And the super fight, the super fight was Gordon. Yeah, of course. What super fight? Yeah, Gordon and Andre. Yeah. But,
if you are listening to this podcast and you didn't know the result of that, like, I don't know, man. You're like the one person in the world.
So prior to the super fight, let's start with Gordon Ryan, right? Because he's the biggest name, I guess. So let's start with him. Prior to ADCC. For the 100 kilo division, when we did our episode, it wasn't a predictions episode, but we kind of gave our thoughts. It was hard to pick anyone for the plus 100 kilo division to win other than Gordon. It was like, oh, you've got Nicky Rod and you've got Penner in there, but obviously Gordon was by far the favorite. And then even with the match with Galval, it wasn't, it was 99% that Gordon was going to win. But I don't think you could ever completely write off Galval. And I think even
you shouldn't.
Yeah, even I think deep down, as much trash as he talks, Gordon has said in multiple interviews as well, like how much he respects Galval's jiu-jitsu and what he's done in ADCC, and then goes on to say, well, I only don't have those records yet because I haven't done as many ADCCs as Andre. But,
well, he said I don't know if you heard, did you hear the post super fight interview with Gordon when he was on the mic?
I saw the bit where he called out Penner.
Yeah, so before that, he basically spent a solid 30 seconds saying how much he hopes to one day have even half the title. Like he said, I don't even have half the titles Andre has, and hopefully one day I can live up to the legacy and all this, and so much respect for him. And I think in that moment you saw the real Gordon Ryan and what he really thinks, because he does put on a persona.
Oh, get off his dick, bro.
Man, I have a lot of respect for Gordon Ryan.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, the dude's amazing. And yeah, I mean, obviously he was the favorite, not just for the division, but the super fight. But you still had to go, well, man, Galval's the most successful ADCC competitor of all time at the moment that fight was happening.
So what do you think of the super fight?
That's funny you asked that, because I was watching it and it was time that at that moment, I sort of said to my son, I was pretty much just handed him YouTube or whatever so I could watch it. But I was watching someone else's stream and I got 1 minute in and I got booted off. And I was like, fuck.
Someone else's flow account, yeah.
And then I got impatient and I just found out the result once it ended.
Yeah.
But man, I love the little douche takedown that Galval did at the start on Gordon.
I think he let him take him down.
That's right. I think he did the same in the final with Nicky Rod.
He even said
if you remember, he did the same to both of them, handed them his leg, being take me down because you're not going to get points for it. And I'm going to get to play guard without copping a penalty for pulling guard.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. And I was talking to Anthony throughout the matches for most of the 2 days. Anthony's blue belt trains our gym, and as soon as it happened, we said, "Yeah, that was tactical, 100%." And even I was listening to your favorite podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, this morning.
That's a great podcast.
Great podcast, latest episode, and even he said before the match, Gordon was like, "Yeah, watch me give him a single leg," and that was before the final. So the Nicky Rod final. He's like, "Yeah, watch me give him a single leg and let him take me down." And it was super obvious. He didn't defend it at all.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to pull guard, didn't want to get penalized.
Yeah. So that actually already starting to slightly go off topic of talking about the actual matches. But it makes me think, and I was thinking this while watching ADCC, I don't know if that first half of the match no points thing is the best format, because if you think about there were a lot of fights, a lot of them, whether it was in the finals or not the finals, whether it was on day one or day two, there were a lot of matches where not a lot happens in the first half of the match, because unless that takedown is going to land you straight inside control or something like that.
For a submission opportunity,
it is a lot of work to score a takedown just to land in someone's guard or whatever and it not award you anything. It's not the perfect solution, because if you think back before jiu-jitsu was what it is in 2022, simply just saying, well, you get penalized for pulling guard was enough to kind of, negate the problems of guard pulling and whatever. But now people are just going, well, fine, I'll just get taken down in some shitty takedown and it doesn't matter because they don't get points for it. They're essentially, it's a shitty loophole as a way to pull guard.
It promotes stalling, I suppose.
Maybe a little bit as well. I don't mind the feeling each other out phase, but I on the one hand, I see the idea of, okay, that whole no points thing, it kind of, on the one hand, it allows you to take more risks because if you fuck up, it's not going to, you're not going to, they passed your guard when you threw up that triangle or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're still side control, but, at least you didn't concede points. So I get that side of it. But there's also the other side where people are like, oh man, well, I don't want to invest all of that if it's if it's not going to reward me with anything.
I think the reward will come into the situations where it's 0-0 and it goes to ref's decision. That's where like being really active in the first half of the match is going to play in your favor. And we did see a lot of ref decisions 0-0s. So, I mean, that scenario did play out in some of the key matches that we hopefully will get to highlight throughout this episode. So I think that you're right, but it probably is the best solution. So in terms of the super fight, though, I think that it was incredibly...
Well, I don't know, why... I don't know. Why can't they... You know, I think you could... I haven't put a lot of time thinking into a solution for this. However, you could easily, I feel, like close that loophole if you said something like, okay, the first half of the match, you only score points with takedowns. Like, there's no points for you know.
People might game it like just like take down, let him get up, take down, let him get up, like that stupid thing.
No, yeah, but like we're trying to close the loophole of people pulling guard, right? So the person who gets taken down, they're not going to get back up. It's not like UFC where if the guy on top stands up, the dude lying down is told to stand back up.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned about like if the situation is like, you know, one person is a superior wrestler and they take him down and then they invite the other person to stand back up
then
just to take him down again.
Why would you stand back up with them?
Well, you might not. But
you wouldn't, right?
Might not. No.
I mean, if you're going against someone who's superior wrestler to you, I mean, you're either gonna you're already going, well, I'm not going to be able to take them down. I'll just pull guard. Yeah. Or in other words, if you get taken down, you're just going to stay down.
I personally don't have a problem with the rule set. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't know.
I don't know. I just saw enough matches where just shit didn't happen or people gamed the system a little bit in that first half of the match. Oh, yeah, it just happened enough for me to sort of think, maybe there's a better way.
Yeah, no, I totally.
And that's as far as I thought. So I didn't sit there and think it should be like this.
Yeah, totally.
So even now saying points for a takedown, it's a pretty dumb idea. But I'm just like,
I get you.
Brainstorming.
The ADCC rule set definitely isn't perfect. I
don't think you can make any rule set perfect. No. And I think why no rule set is perfect or potentially will ever be perfect is because like jiu-jitsu is just constantly changing and it's very hard, you know. Yeah. Exactly. You know, a rule set that was perfectly fine 10 years ago, all of a sudden is crap now. You know, there used to be no rules to do with, you know, 50-50, right? Because the position didn't exist. And it always still blows my mind how, you know, that two human bodies interacting haven't figured out all the ways that one body can manipulate another body.
It's almost infinite, right?
Yeah, and you think, how can it be so infinite? Like you've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, you know, and a torso, right? Like you've got like those, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 components. Yeah. 12 when you put the 2 together. Yeah. How is it? I don't know. Maybe
12 components create infinite opportunities.
Yeah, maybe a mathematician is like, but it's actually, you know,
yeah.
Anyway, back to Gordon Ryan.
The super fight, I think, just to close that off, and then we'll swiftly move on because we've got a lot to go through. I think it was very one-sided. You know, I think it played out exactly how most people thought it was going to play out. And funnily enough, I have to give a shout out to Anthony. We're talking before the match, and we're like, you know, spinning shit. And we're like, oh, okay, predictions. And I was like, oh, yeah, the first 10 minutes, Gordon will win. And Anthony's like, I reckon he'll win via rear naked strangle in the last 5 minutes. And that's exactly what happened. So if you didn't watch it, essentially, it was a body triangle with one of Andre's arms trapped. I think it was his right arm trapped. And then he controlled his left arm. Gordon controlled his left arm with Gordon controlled Andre's left arm with his left arm and just one-handed rear naked strangle. And it was just it was just over. He didn't even get it deep. Like it was sort of across he got under, but yeah, it was crazy.
I mean,
man, so
very. Good. I mean, one armed, not perfectly under the chin. Someone with that type of strength.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and Andre had no arms available to defend himself. Insane. He would have felt so vulnerable. He got smashed.
But to finish off Gordon and just essentially the main things I want to, the 2 things I want to that stood out for me watching him compete this weekend was firstly that he had 2 outside heel hook finishes.
Yes.
And I don't know if there were other, I haven't looked at every single submission in the ADCC. Like I said, we're not a news recap statistics podcast, but there were definitely other outside heel hook attempts. And it was quite funny because we were talking about it prior to ADCC, literally like the day before, saying, in the gym, saying, oh, you don't see a lot of them. They're compared to an inside heel hook, relatively easy to spin out of. And you've heard lots of people say that. Like I've seen instructionals where Gary Tonin says that, where, Craig Jones talks about it in whatever, like multiple people have said it. And then we see Gordon hit 2 outside heel hook finishes, right? And the other one and then he even right at the start of the match with Galval dug an outside heel hook that Galval was able to escape, but it looked pretty deep.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was going to finish him exactly the same as he finished the match before.
Oh yeah, in the semifinals.
Yeah, sorry.
What was the total match time? It was under a minute, wasn't it? That match? The semis? It was insane.
Yeah, it was 11 seconds it was.
It was fucking insane.
Sorry, let me bring up his name. I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, me too. poor bastard.
What's his name?
He'll forever be lost in the history books as a guy.
His name, Roosevelt Souza.
Oh, the other Souza. Yeah.
Yeah, like 11 seconds, right? Insane. And he had Gordon in that same one, but Gordon got out. And another one, so our boy Jeremy Skinner in his first match against AJ had multiple pretty deep looking outside heel hook attempts. Yeah. And so that surprised me that there were any outside heel hook finishes, right?
Yeah.
So, but then more than that, just watching Gordon, man, it's just crazy. Like it is how the dude makes other world-class guys look so bad. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that he has to be such a dick about it, Like I think on one of his videos not that long before ADCC, he was saying, oh, someone had asked him like, how do you stay on top of your game, And he said, well, if I just want to be the best, he goes, well, that's not that difficult. That just means I have to be better than the second best person, and the second best person in the world is dog shit. Yeah. So, and like, I mean, that's a bit of a douchey thing to say because they're not, right? Like all these guys on this stage are incredible. Yeah. Even whichever person got knocked out, even if someone got submitted in 10 seconds of their first match on day one, bro, you still made it to ADCC. You're still one of the best competitors in the world. But yeah, just the way he just demolished the competition. Didn't finish all his fights by submission. However, his second match was
Victor
points.
Hugo. Yeah, 8-0. He couldn't get the finish, and he was like mad disappointed about that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't get the finish as well. So shout out to Victor Hugo. It's interesting that losing 8-0 to Gordon Ryan is a huge accomplishment.
Pretty much. Yeah,
like that is like one of the biggest accomplishments is to lose to him via points rather than submission.
But at this stage, man, I just look at Gordon and I just go, man. Like who, if anyone, is going to stop him? I feel like he's on a trajectory to either essentially retire. I mean, he could retire today and be known as one of the greatest of all time, right? But, I feel like he's either going to essentially retire more or less undefeated or he's going to keep fighting until you can't win forever, right? Until he becomes the, like where Shanji is today or where, Lovato is today or where Galval is today. It was like, okay, in your time, you were the best in the world and will go down as one of the greatest of all time. But now you're 40 and this 22-year-old is on the scene and, you can't win forever. But it just seems like he's on this trajectory where he's either will only lose when it's kind of the passing of the guard.
Yep, totally.
Or he'll retire.
Yep, he's just getting better and better.
Dude, yeah, that's it, right? He's still getting better. He's like 27, right? And anyway.
Same age as me. It's crazy.
Enough about Gordon Ryan.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, all right, time to jump off the dick riding club and let's talk about some of these matches. So I want to talk about, because we did mention in our like ADCC lead up episode that I was going to be interested to see Josh Saunders in plus 99, the Australian competitor that we spoke about, Penna versus Saunders. Unfortunately, as you probably know, Penna won on points, but man, shout out to Josh Saunders for, not getting submitted, because Penna went on in his in the second match of day one to submit his opponent. So Josh, was, and he actually nearly scored a really good takedown before points, I believe, like with some sort of throw. I forget exactly how it occurred, but I mean, man, Josh held his own pretty well up against Penna. So yeah, shout out to Josh Saunders, did really well. Yeah. And
that match I didn't see.
Yeah, I watched it pretty closely. Now, the next one I wanted to talk about on day one, just jumping around a little bit here, I've sort of highlighted the key matches on day one that I wanted to brush on. Josh Hinger versus Tai Rotolo. Did you watch that one?
No, but I was surprised to hear the result.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised to see the result.
So, yeah, did you watch it?
I did, yeah.
So, tell me your thoughts. So I've had someone say to me, oh man, I don't know. Because for those who don't know, Tai and Josh are teammates, right? And someone had said to me, oh man, I don't know. I think Tai maybe sort of threw that match. How do you how do you lose to Josh and then the next day go on to beat, Penna?
Oh, he totally threw. Like, as in, not through, like he, I think it's really unfortunate that Tai lost. I don't think, if we look at it.
So
it was three. He lost on points.
Okay.
So he lost on points. It went to 10 minutes, I believe. It wasn't in overtime. And the total score was 3 points to Josh Hinger, 2 points to Tai Rotolo. And at the end, I think Tai had, there was many moments in the second half of the match where Tai nearly scored. Like, it was pretty much Tai's match the whole way. Let me put it this way. If they went into overtime with equal score, Tai would have won. Let me just let that sink in. Like, he was winning, and then Josh was able to pull out an amazing, he got, I think he took his back, and that's how he got the 3 points, because he got his second hook in. Josh did an amazing job, but man, I'm just so disappointed for Tai.
I'll just say this though, the two thing, as someone who didn't watch the fight, so I can't make a opinion is in, I've seen hundreds of Tai's fights and watching this one, I don't reckon he gave his best. Let me make 2 points. First, them being teammates, there might be this little bit of, because Josh Hinger is an incredible competitor.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And very good jiu-jitsu. So it's not like he's a chump, right?
Far out. No, God, no.
And so there might have been that little bit of, Josh being like, not fucking yet, bro. Like, I still got you. And so there might have been a bit of that. And there might have also been that sort of, there's people in the gym. Let's say there's, Kieren, right? Let's say there's fucking Steve and Tom, right?
Yeah.
And you can beat the shit out of Steve, right? And Steve beats the shit out of Tom. So you'd think, I should be able to smash Tom, but Tom smashes you, right? And you go, but how does that...
It's like rock, paper, scissors, bro.
Yeah, right? Like, so they're teammates.
Yeah.
For all we know, like, Josh just might have his number. He's just like, they're training partners, and maybe for Tai, he's like, fuck, man, like, I just... I smash everyone in the gym, but there's the psychological factor as well. Like, but Josh could also just be that rock, paper, scissors teammate of his who, for just their styles, and he just fucking Hinger, man, I just can't get my shit to work with him. So it could also, that could also be a factor.
In an alternate reality, in an alternate universe where they weren't teammates, I think Tai would have won. I think you're right. I think that psychological factor did play a part, and maybe it was even to the point where Tai thought, normally I do win in the training room, so I should be able to win here.
Right, and maybe
it didn't go his way, and then it started to get to his head, and he's like, oh shit, I'm fucked here. Like, I don't know. We can never really say, but needless to say, like,
if he did throw, they did a good job because they didn't get disqualified for fixing a match.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
100%. Yeah. No, he didn't throw it as in, like, intentionally lose. God, no. Like, the Rotolo brothers would never do that. And you could see the disappointment in Tai. I think when we say that he threw, like, he had every opportunity to win, and he just was unable to capitalize. And this is definitely, Monday morning quarterback, as the saying goes. Like, sitting back here with my blue belt, wrapped around my head, be like, I would have done better. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, it was really hard to watch because I think that Tai definitely had the upper hand for vast majority of the match, and Josh, all credit to him, the tactician that he is, was able to pull off the win. Very impressive from Josh Hinger. I was very impressed.
Let me tell you a joke. Like, you've just reminded me of a joke where there was this comedian, and I just saw this on YouTube, so I don't know who the comedian is. Otherwise, I'll shout them out because I'm not stealing his joke. But anyway, this comedian is doing a set, and he's kind of making fun of parenting, right? And anyway, so a mum starts heckling him, being like, do you have kids? You know, and he's like, no, I don't. And she's like, so what the fuck do you know? Blah, 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 blah. Sort of similar to how you're saying, like, well, I'm just a blue belt, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and he said something along the lines of, he's like, yeah, I don't have kids. He goes, I'm also not a pilot, but if I see a helicopter in a tree, I know someone fucked up. You know? You know? Yeah. And then he caught her out even more, and he was like, oh, what team do you support? Because it was in America, and she's like, I don't know the names of the teams, but like whatever, like you're fucking Broncos, woo, you know? And he's like, okay, and have you ever played football professionally? No. He's like, and do you watch football on Sundays? Yeah. And do you yell at the team and tell the quarterback what he should have done? Or what the fuck do you know? You know?
100%.
So I think on the one hand, it's like, yeah, shut up, what do you know? But on the other hand, it's like you can have an opinion as a more or less educated spectator. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I totally get
that. Yeah, so I mean, both awesome.
That match was awesome. If you haven't watched it, even though you know the result, it's worth watching. Like, it's one of those like awesome. It was one of the highlight matches of day one at least, if not like ADCC. Not my favorite, but like up there. It was very, very good. Now the next one I want to talk about we're jumping around a little bit, going back up in weight to the 88 kilo division. I believe this is 88. Rocha versus Isaac Michel.
So this is another one I didn't watch.
Yeah, so
again,
this one...
Isaac being the Australian guy from the B team who won the Who's Next, no time limit reality show thing. Won the Oceania trials to punch his ticket.
Won IBJJF Nogi Worlds at Brown Belt recently. So he's had a big year. And this is another one where I think that he shit the bed a little bit. Like, as in, okay, I'm not taking anything away from Rocha, but I mean, far out, man. Like... This, for those that don't know, this went the full 15 minutes, so 10 minutes plus 5 minutes of overtime, and it was 0-0, and it went to ref's decision. Now, as I was watching it, I fully expected at the end of it, I was like, oh, Isaac's got this in the bag. He did enough, he won. Like, Isaac clearly won this match, but he didn't, he lost. And I was, jumping up and down, like, what the fuck? What is this? Yelling at my computer screen and like furiously messaging.
There's a fucking helicopter in a tree.
Yeah,
Someone's
exactly.
fucked up.
Yeah, I was furiously messaging Anthony, like sending voice message around, like, what the fuck? But I mean, if you go back and rewatch it and watch it objectively without all the emotion and without like, focusing in on your guy, in this case, my guy was definitely Isaac, then yeah, okay, he probably did lose objectively because, he wasn't pushing the action as much. But he had some really close back take attempts. There was some moments of the match where, if he just held for like 1 extra second, or if he scored a takedown, but he didn't get the points because he wasn't able to hold it for 3 seconds. He focused too much on chasing the back rather than getting his opponent's butt to the mat to secure the points in ADCC rule set. It was IBJJF rule set. He would have scored 2 points. So that's a little bit, I would say, maybe inexperience in the ADCC rule set, where in those moments he should have just focused on securing the points, then getting the back, rather than trying to go straight for the back, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's really disappointing. It was really, really disappointing because I think he could have done, a lot better in the division overall if he got through that first round, which is a very tough round, being, a bottom seed coming from Oceania trials. Yeah, a very, very disappointing match. Big upset, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest standouts definitely of the entire event, though, was Cade Rotolo.
Oh, yeah.
Cade winning the 77 kilo division, and not only that, becoming the youngest ever ADCC champion at 19.
19, yeah.
And he stormed through. He won every single match by submission, and which resulted in being the first ever person to submit Mika Galval, which was in the final. Caught him with an outside heel hook.
Another outside heel hook that you mentioned earlier.
No, sorry. Was it an outside? I believe I meant it was an inside heel hook.
Inside heel hook, right. And he pulled it off like... Okay, so
I'm pretty sure it was.
If you haven't seen this match, let me just paint the picture. Mika Galvao was winning the entire time. Like, it's very clear. Even if you watch it objectively, like, Mika had his number. Mika was winning. Like, again, given the example, if it went to ref's decision at that point before it stopped, Mika would have won. And then out of freaking nowhere.
Man, that's the
out
thing,
of nowhere.
Like, I'm happy for Cade, and he was definitely going back to our predictions. He was in there as to who I was like, man, he could win.
I think you even predicted this final. You said it very likely could be a Mika Cade final.
Yeah, I think I was pretty sure that one of them was going to win.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not a Cade fan. I'm just more of a Mika fan than Cade. I just think Mika's jiu-jitsu is fucking beautiful, man. I think it's so good to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas I like watching Cade's jiu-jitsu, but it's way more scrappy and messy and and it's awesome. Like, I love watching it, but I'm comparing it to Mika's, right?
Mika's more elegant.
I just prefer Mika's style as someone who's passionate about the sport. That's just my opinion. There'll be people who will prefer Cade's style. That's fine. So I wanted Mika to win, but man, Cade's just, I feel like you could have his back and he'll all of a sudden heel hook you or armbar you or something. Like, it's, man, he just submissions out of nowhere, really just out of nowhere. He's such a beast, and he submitted Lachlan Giles in his first match. And that was definitely a tough draw for Lockie to get Cade first round.
Yeah.
But that fight was really interesting for me to watch because prior to ADCC, I was hanging out with Lockie and he had sort of shared his more or less his strategy.
Can you share it now?
Well, yeah, I guess so. More or less his strategy. And the commentators, I don't think it's any secret now because even the commentators sort of
picked up
more
on it.
or less, picked up on it, which was Lockie was well aware that the element of surprise in terms of K-guard was gone.
Yeah.
And this is something the commentators said.
Yeah.
And he was well aware that a lot of people, not just Cade, a lot of people were doing this more sort of passing around to north-south sort of way as trying to not expose your legs for leg entanglements. And so they were more leading with their arms instead of their legs. And so he had been working really hard on Choi bars, right? And the commentators, they didn't necessarily say it in those words, but they pointed out that, again, Lachlan has tried to go for the Choi bar and whatever. So that was a lot of Lockie's strategy. He still did manage some really nice leg entanglements with Cade. Got to 50-50 a couple of times. And he had a similar approach in the absolute where he fought Yuri Simones and again lost on points.
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe.
We could pull that up.
he wasn't submitted.
Yes.
And it was the same sort of thing going for lots of Choi bars and everything. So it was interesting.
That inverted game from...
yeah.
So for those that don't know what a Choi bar is, it's essentially an arm bar. It's an arm bar.
Yeah, it's just the way you enter it. It's essentially entering into the arm the same way you would use K-guard to enter into the legs. And it was interesting to watch that match and, and see Lockie trying to implement that and doing well. Like Lockie did really well. And then there was just a moment where K just, like, man, he didn't even have his arm. I don't mean didn't have it as in Lockie tapped when there wasn't an armbar. I mean, it wasn't like his hips were nowhere near it or whatever. He just grabbed Lockie's wrist and just reefed it and just jumped on an armbar.
It's crazy,
man.
So
quick and fast and out of nowhere. Yeah. Those two brothers, both of them, but obviously from this ADCC, Cade's the standout. Just from anywhere, man. Crazy.
I think that's a good way of like summarizing Cade's run was like submissions from anywhere and everywhere, and you never know when it's going to happen. So that I think from a pure like
because he also was it an armbar or a heel hook he got on Roberto Jimenez as well? Let me double check that. So that was it.
Yeah.
So that was his second match where
I've watched so many jiu-jitsu matches in the last like 72 hours that they're all like sort of blending into one. Yeah,
I'm going to confirm for you in 2 seconds.
Yeah, we got the bracket. We got the brackets up here, guys. We're not making mistakes this time.
Give me 2 seconds, team. I'll take. But it was another sort of thing. Did you watch the match of
yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched all of Cade's. Yeah.
Yeah, so like again, it was like sort of it was a heel hook, outside heel hook.
Okay.
So it wasn't
Another
like 100% out of nowhere, but it was just like in a scramble-ish sort of position, and he just bloody jumps on it, and then he armbarred PJ Barch, right?
Yeah.
And then heel hook with Mickey Galvao. So two heel hooks and 2 armbars for Cade.
For the best guys in the world, like
man.
Undoubtedly
so
the best
good.
guys in the world.
But I was a little sad that Mika lost. I was super stoked for Cade, and but damn it, I wanted Mika to win.
Yeah, I wanted Mika to win just quietly, but I mean that's one of those matches where you watch and like really though, I don't really care who wins. I think I just wanted to see good jiu-jitsu, and that's exactly what we got. It's definitely watch it. I'm going to rewatch it, to be honest. There's a lot to take away from it. It was a fantastic match. It was probably one of the best matches of the day.
Probably the other. Before we go into specific matches, just one other athlete I want to highlight who I'm a massive fan of, so I was super stoked to see win, is Fionn Davis. Man, I think her jiu-jitsu is awesome. She seems to have a really good understanding of her jiu-jitsu as well. So I believe she's on that. She has instructionals on that platform that I think Keenan Cornelius made, that Level X or whatever it's called.
I don't know too much about it. I've seen it. I've seen the advertisements. I don't know too much
so
about
anyway, little clips that have popped up of her doing instructionals and whatever. She explains her techniques really well, really detailed, really concise. I think she's got awesome jiu-jitsu. Last ADCC, correct me if I'm wrong, but she was a silver medalist and then winning this year.
I believe so. I'm not sure. We'll have to double check that, but I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, it was sick. So I was super happy. I'm a big fan of her. So just as a fan, I was stoked to see Fionn win. That was sick.
So the next bracket, I have to talk about this guy. This guy is my new, probably one of my new favorite grapplers out of this event. I didn't know who he was beforehand. I think a lot of people would be in this same camp, but Bodoni from New Wave.
In the 99 kilo.
88.
88.
88 kilo. Because I would probably compete at 88 or 77 if I was to compete at ADCC. So like, I think
if you're going to ADCC, you'd
probably go 77.
Yeah, I reckon, bro.
Yeah,
I'd
have to get on the juice and
get on the juice like everyone else and go 88.
Yeah, but regardless, like this guy came out of virtual nowhere, being like sort of the grey man of Danaher's next secret weapon, if you will.
Yeah, because he won the, I forget if it was West Coast or East Coast trials, but he won the trials, and then he fought J-Rod at the Who's Number One event. So that was then putting the West Coast Trials winner against the East Coast Trials winner, and he beat J-Rod. This was a while ago, but I believe it was only on points. I don't think he submitted him. Anyway, so that's all I knew about him. He won trials, then he, essentially beat the second best trials winner. If you want to think about it like that, and then went on to win ADCC.
His entire division. Just smashed his division. And so he beat Lucas Hulk Barbosa in the finals. And
not just beat him, submitted him with a rear naked choke.
In overtime. And he was up 9 points at that point. Anyway, so absolutely incredible run. Danaher's new secret weapon. Now everyone knows him. His jiu-jitsu is just so fucking good, man. I'm not really articulating it well, but I'm just so impressed with this guy. Like he is such an impressive grappler. He's propelled to the forefront of us thinking about the best grapplers that I'm following at the moment. He's like fucking right up there in the top 3 that I'm like, holy shit, I want to be like this guy. So impressive.
I actually didn't see any of his.
I wasn't paying
matches.
attention to him at the start in that division because I didn't really know who he was, and obviously social media plays a big part of who we follow. Just it is what it is. Like whoever has the hype behind him or has the following. So I was looking at Isaac. I was looking at other people. In the division,
so he beat Zaki Bayance in round 1.
Yeah, that was a big upset as well.
Then he submitted Mateus Diniz, who was last ADCC winner.
Yep.
Right. Then he beat O'Flanagan in the semifinals and then Hulk in the finals. So
Yeah.
definitely not an easy.
No.
I mean, round 2, having bloody submitting Mateus, not only he was also up 4 points prior to submitting him.
And I mean, pulling Ozaki Bayance in round 1, for those that don't know who Ozaki Bayance is, he is predominantly a gi competitor, we'll say, but man, probably the best at his weight division in gi in the world right now. He is one of the best grapplers in the world. So he is no slouch. Like, he's a tough first round, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch some of his matches.
Yeah, I want to rewatch his run because I watched his first match because I was watching for Ozaki.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed when he, when he won. I was like, "Fuck this guy!" But then I kept watching him. I was like, "Holy
Fuck
shit,
this guy!" And then by the end, you're like,
like,
"I want to suck your dick."
Yeah, I'm like, I'm on the Bodoni fucking dick rider club now, boys. Mumo Ozaki. Yeah. No, still so much respect for Ozaki. And for those that have heard us, shoot the shit before, I've modeled a lot of my, early development off of Ozaki Bayance's game. So to see those two come together, and it was an amazing match. Super impressed with him, regardless to say. And I think that really highlights, apart from, if we look at New Wave, just talking about teams now, because I did want to mention the themes coming out of the different teams that we saw in ADCC, because there's very clear themes. Obviously, the different teams, the key teams have been, working on some shit. I think the key guys that we have in terms of teams, we have the B team, we have New Wave under Danaher, Atos, of course, and you probably be able to help me out here. The name's escaping me, but Mika and Baby Shark's team.
Oh, they're from Fight Sports, from Cyborg's gym.
Are they from? No, they're from Brazil.
Yeah, they are like those Manaus boys.
Manaus. Is it Cyborg's gym?
Yeah, they all fight out of Cyborg's gym in Miami, Fight Sports.
Oh, right. They train in Manaus, though, right? Under Mika's dad.
I could be connecting two very far away dots.
Yeah.
But
they
definitely
train under Mika's dad, right?
Well, they definitely train with Cyborg too.
Okay.
At his gym in Miami.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that crew.
Those guys. So those, if we look at the best performances, obviously there are other standout teams, but collectively those 4 teams in my mind stand out. And maybe I'm definitely biased here, but I saw very clear themes between them and different approaches. And I think that apart from Oliver Taza unfortunately losing a very tough round 1, New Wave Jiu Jitsu or New Wave under Danaher did exceptionally well. And that's obviously from Gordon Ryan being the standout and Bodoni being the
but also Marigali now training with them.
And Marigali, thank you. Yeah.
World champion already in the gi. Obviously throughout his career has trained no gi, but at a professional level at black belt, he's been doing it for 6 months?
Yeah.
And
super impressive.
Man, he did really well. He made it to the finals of the Absolute.
Yeah. And he lost on tactical errors. That is
he only
ADCC
lost on penalties,
experience.
right?
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch. I saw the very end of it.
Yeah. So he made some very key tactical errors right at the start. He pulled guard off a takedown attempt where he should have allowed the takedown to occur
more time.
Yeah. Because he made a mistake. And you could have, even the commentators were like, "Oh, was that a takedown? Was that a guard pull?" But the judges correctly determined it was a guard pull.
Yeah.
And as soon as it happened, he got the negative, obviously. And I messaged, I was talking to Anthony. I was like, "That was a tactical error, like straight up." Like you can see that match, there's not going to be much points going on because they're just, it's kind of like two brick walls just smashing against each other in terms of the how competitive it was. It was clearly an error. And then it went to overtime, and then he pulled guard again. In that sense, it probably was a smart decision.
Because he wasn't going to take him down.
Because, he didn't want to concede a takedown because the points were live at that point. So that wasn't an option. And pulling guard was probably his best bet at that point because he wasn't winning the stand-up game against Yuri. So, I mean, that was a decent match.
He had the match with Craig in the semis, which he
lost.
He lost, but I believe
that just to clarify, the semis we're talking about was his division under 99. So we jumped around a little bit. So we went from talking about the absolute final where he lost to Yuri Samos, and then we jumped to under 99 semifinal where he fought Craig Jones and lost to Craig Jones.
Yeah, and then fought Lovato for the bronze, which he won.
Yes.
So he got. I mean, he's
Amazing run.
Coming out of New Wave. I mean, well, in the last year, he's gone Alliance, Dream Art, New Wave, which is not. Don't take this as me saying, he's a
Creonci or whatever.
Yeah, Creonci. No, he's just an athlete who's trying to find the best place to train for where he's at in his career, and he's essentially let's just pick an even number. 6 months of no gi under his. I was going to say belt, non-existent belt.
The belt he's not wearing.
And
but that kind of annoys me, right? Because the dude has fucking trained no gi.
No, of course he has.
But I get what everyone is saying. Like,
yeah.
This is 6 months of him taking no gi seriously, and that
right.
highlights that. As much as we fuck around, that there is a very big difference between no gi game and gi game.
Yeah, because his guard in the gi where he plays and collars and Della X and stuff.
Yep.
But there was some controversy about him getting a free ticket to ADCC. He didn't win trials or anything. He was
hopefully
invited.
That's squashed now.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, his first ever ADCC, and he gets bronze at weight and silver at absolute.
It's fucking Marigali, dude. If you ever had to kick up a stink about him getting an air quote free invite, man, you need to readjust yourself. Yeah. It's fucking Marigali.
But someone made a good point that I think it might have been Anthony. I mean, I think he said, well, I wonder what would have happened if he did beat Yuri in the absolute, because then that would have meant that it would be him and Gordon the next super fight. And it's like, well, does he keep training at New Wave?
Of course.
I mean,
100% he does. 100%. They just train together and then, I think it's.
And then Gordon smashes him.
Yeah, which is exactly what's going to happen. But man, thank you for bringing up Marigali. I was so impressed with Marigali. Not that I expected anything less. It's Marigali.
Yeah, I really like Marigali.
His jiu-jitsu speaks for itself. Yeah. It's awesome.
And yes, one of the other things that stood out. So going back to themes, and actually, squash that. A submission that caught me by surprise was was it Diogo Hayes? Let me double check. But it was the submission.
Talking Baby Shark?
I don't know why people call him Baby Shark.
That's his name, bro.
Whatever.
You got to get amongst the Baby Shark. Oh, in the crowd, I think it was the finals with Souza. Someone screamed out, "Baby Shark!" Yeah, so funny, man.
Diogo Pato, is that Baby Shark?
No.
Wait, which one's Diogo Hayes? Is Baby Shark?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, there's two Diogos.
Anyway, it was a submission win over Kennedy, Cobrinha's son, and it was like, did you see this match?
I don't think I did. I might have. Maybe
so it was.
My memory.
It was like a Z lock, right? So it was essentially pretty much a saddle position, pretty much an outside heel hook position, like we saw Gordon hit and like Jeremy was trying to do, but instead of going for the heel hook, he had such a deep reap. Right, he essentially the knees at a right angle, like the shin and the thigh are at a right angle, and then instead of doing the heel hook, just lifting the leg like you're winding a crank. So that's called a Z lock, and and you got the tap from Kennedy with that, and I was like, holy shit, you don't see that submission happen very often.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I don't even know. I would have to rewatch it. I watched it a few times, but I would have to rewatch it to see. Was there real intent in the Z-lock, or was that just a byproduct of the reap and trying to dig the heel or whatever? But either way, I was kind of like, oh, holy shit, you don't see that submission a lot. So that caught me by surprise. But in terms of the themes of what we saw...
Are you talking about themes in general or themes of the teams?
No, of how fights were fought and won. None of it caught me by surprise. I think it was what we... spoke about in our other episode, more or less predicted. You are obviously still going to see a decent amount of heel hook submissions and rear naked chokes. There were definitely more arm bars than I expected to see.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't see a single buggy choke.
Nah.
I don't think there were any. There were definitely some that were attempted. There were definitely times where I saw people looking for it.
Yeah. But I think that's another one of those things that kind of like, Lachlan Giles's K-guard. It's not a surprise anymore. Yeah, you can still get caught in it. And, if you get caught, you're still going to potentially get submitted, particularly if it's a Rotolo that's throwing it up. But it's one of those things that, you know, it really requires.
It's not a surprise anymore.
It requires the element of surprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, the passing was kind of what we expected as well.
So what did you take on the passing? What sort of passing really stood out to be the most effective or the most common? Or
so there were three, for my opinion, there were three predominant ones that stood out, which was essentially, let's just call it pressure passing. So that whole category of body lock, half guard, trying to get chest to chest sort of passing,
chest
like
first,
the exact way that Nicky Ride passed Penna, right? There was the going around to north-south passing.
Like the Rotolo style.
Yeah, it's what Yuri was trying to do to Lachlan the whole time. And then diving into north-south. And then there was the high-stepping, foot-stomping sort of style of passing.
Rotolo's also used a lot of that.
Yeah. Which connects nicely to the north-south passing.
Yeah.
In my opinion, just from what I saw, I think the most effective was the pressure passing chest to chest and the north-south passing. My issue with the high step passing is not that there's an issue with that type of passing. I just am of the opinion that it is only a type of passing you can do if it's built on top of an extraordinary understanding of leg entanglements in the leg lock game, you know, because unlike north-south passing or pressure passing, where the idea is that your legs aren't even accessible to the person on the bottom, with the high step passing, your legs are very close to them and near them. And yeah, we saw it even with Cade and Lachlan, that Lachlan was still able to get some leg entanglements and
from
everything.
From that north.
Well,
south,
yeah, and just from,
step.
you know, and the foot stomping and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And
so if you don't know what foot stomping is, it's where essentially they're using their foot from the top to pin one of the legs of the guard player.
Yeah, you're essentially
hence why it's called
standing on their foot so they can't use that leg.
That's why they call it foot stomping.
Yeah. And, you know, Cade got away with it because, I mean, he's very difficult to submit and very good at, you know, scrambling and clearing his legs straight away or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think for the average person that goes, okay, I haven't developed all my other guard passing and I don't really know shit about leg locks and whatever, I'm just going to do high step passing. I reckon you're going to get leg locked all the time and heel hooked all the time, right? Like when we're talking about the elite, the best people in the world, the professionals of the sport. So to some degree, it's a level playing field, you know.
Yeah,
but for the average person, if you went in against Lockie and decided, oh yeah, so high step passing is the way to beat you, you're going to get heel hooked in like 30 seconds. You know,
try 11 seconds.
Yeah, right. Like you've got to. In my opinion, that's just my humble opinion. You've kind of that style of passing needs to be built. It should almost be like you're only allowed to do that once you can do all this, because otherwise, if you skip the leg lock portion of it, the leg entanglement portion, you know, you're just going to get punished for it. It's kind of, I've been saying this thing to some of my students recently who neglecting or reluctant to sort of learn some, I don't want to say the word fundamentals, but whatever, let's just say fundamentals or core principles or whatever. And I've kind of been saying, man,
fundamentals of leg lock, sorry?
No, sorry, just of jiu-jitsu,
right.
Where I'm just kind of saying, and you need to learn this in this isolated way. You know, don't then turn to me and say, but so-and-so does this or so-and-so does this. I go, yeah, you know why they do it? Because you have to learn the rules before you can learn how to break them.
Can we just have like a example? Sorry to put you on the
spot. I'll give you a very simple example. You don't see this very often nowadays in jiu-jitsu, but you used to see it a bit more back in the day where, so before no gi was what it is today, and it was mainly gi matches, and people didn't really stand up to open close guard and whatever. So you're told, like as a white belt, you're very clearly taught that if you're in someone's close guard, you don't reach back with one arm and put it in between their legs to open their guard.
Yeah,
right?
You get triangled.
But we used to have this guy, Hamon was his name. He was from our gym in Sao Paulo. He was a world champion at blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and unfortunately never won worlds at black belt. But so obviously still incredibly tough. And this is way back. Like this is before the Meow Brothers existed. This was, so going way back. I was a blue belt and he was already a brown belt. So he probably, already a black belt. So he probably won worlds at brown back in 2005 or something like that. Anyway, that was like his way, how he passed your guard every single time. And not just against like me as a little blue belt. He would do it to the other black belts. He would essentially give the triangle, and then he would do that whole thing, but he would never get triangled. And it's kind of like, yeah, because he's done all this other stuff and learnt the rules of what happens and where you're vulnerable and all this, that he's earned the right to break the rules.
I'm going to try it.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I totally
you have
get
to,
what you mean now,
like that's one that just straight away, comes to my mind. Or, so if you don't learn these certain structures, if you don't learn leg entanglements and leg locks and all this stuff, then you haven't earned the right, or you don't even deserve the right to break the rules and do high step passing, in my opinion. Not that you can't do it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just most people, especially people listening to this podcast, just train jiu-jitsu for fun and whatever, and maybe you compete and whatever. So I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying at that level, they can do it because of
But then have something ready in response, because if you're not prepared to end up in 50-50 or end up in some form of leg entanglement, then high step passing is probably the wrong direction to be heading.
Yeah. So that's my opinion. But those three themes in terms of passing were the three dominant ones, definitely.
So on the feet, I've been working on no-gi stand up a lot. So I was paying particular attention to this ADCC, looking about what the themes are, what's going on the feet. And what I noticed is a couple of things. One, there was a lot of attempts at like foot trips and not a lot of completed takedowns of foot trips. But what people were doing is using the foot trip, like essentially like the kicking. And there's even been some memes of like taking a photo from a leg kick in MMA and being like, oh, the themes of ADCC stand up. But I did notice that there was a lot of leg trips. What they were trying to do is invoke different reactions to then going in a different takedown. So looking to like sweep the leg to look for like an inside leg trip, or looking to sweep the leg to invoke some sort of reaction to then shoot a double leg or what have you. And that was a very prominent reoccurring theme. I thought was very interesting. Rather than just standing there stagnant, like do something with your feet to invoke a response. Another thing that I noticed was there was a lot of throw attempts for single leg defense. And
I definitely noticed a lot of like Uchimata's position / throws.
Yes, and completed as well, or at least get to the point where you end up in a dogfight with your opponent. Which I found very interesting. So there was a lot of like people picking up the single leg, but then all of a sudden they're being thrown. So that was across the best stand up. A lot of not isolated to one person. Lots of people were doing this. A lot of arm drags, a staple. But then there was also a fair few redrags as well. So a redrag is I believe a wrestling thing. It's where basically you go for the arm drag, but then your opponent just arm drags you back because your arm. If you think about an arm
same
drag,
position. For
it's kind of like a 50-50, but with your arms. So you're reaching across, but they also have your tricep as well, and that's something I never really connected together before. Whenever I get arm drag, I'm always thinking just square up and defend, but what about a redrag? So that was another theme, and lots of duck unders, like attempts at like throw bys, duck unders, that sort of thing, and. Yeah, but I think the leg sweep and the Uchimatas, those were the big themes for me, which tied into all the other stand up.
Yeah. It was there was now that you mention it I noticed a lot of those sort of Uchimata counters, sort of takedowns. It was good. The stand up was really good. Overall the event was absolutely awesome. I was really happy with the whole thing. I wish I had more time to watch more of it, but I'm now curious to see. So we briefly mentioned it, but after it, Gordon instantly called out Penner, being
that's hilarious.
Being like,
I'll give you
I'll give you 20, 30 minutes to warm up.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go now. I don't want any extra money. Let's just go.
Yeah.
I believe they had, with the unfortunate passing of Leandro Lowe, with the last fight that ended in controversy or whatever, and one of the guys from Flow got fired.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Anyway,
because he, for those that don't know, just like a very quick synopsis, he made some public comments on Flow about Gordon Ryan based off of Felipe's Instagram page. It turned out Felipe was talking shit. He was lying, feeding into this like shit talking atmosphere. And then the Flow reporter stated it as like fact rather than checking.
And they got fired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe when all that went down, they had signed a contract for a third fight already. Yeah. So I don't know when that's happening.
Dude,
but
I don't want to see it.
I don't see. Well, if it's no time limit, I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it anyway. Like we don't need to see it.
Yeah,
we don't need to see it. Felipe,
right. Yeah,
his performance on ADCC, and look, you can't take away from his legacy. And I will say that before I say what I'm about to say. You can't take away from Felipe's legacy. You can't take away from the guy's grappling skills. But man, I was so unimpressed with Felipe's performance across the board that it's not even funny.
I mean, looking at this ADCC, maybe the person to take out Gordon is fucking Cade Rotolo. This fucking subs
Cade all time, man. Throw any of them in.
Subs him out of absolutely nowhere.
Let's get Cade on some fucking Asahi and Jesus. Get him up to plus 99.
Fucking let's go. I think the only question mark I have about this ADCC is why didn't Craig do the absolute?
I don't know if you put his name down for it.
Yeah, why? Like, is it because...
maybe he wanted Nikki to go.
Yeah, because Nikki went into the absolute.
So we found out, like, in the previous...
But Nikki lost to... Who did he lose to in the absolute?
Was it Yuri? It might have been Yuri. I can't remember, dude. There's so many fights. I should know this. But
it's not giving me the bracket for the...
Just very, very quickly for the audience, because the last ADCC episode, we didn't know how the absolute worked.
We didn't. He lost to Yuri.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the absolute, the way it works is it's created by the organizers of ADCC. You can put your name down. You can volunteer for it, essentially. It's not like, whoever gets a medal or whatever. They basically... it's invite only, and they just pick and choose between who put their name down, and then they create brackets based on that. So it's a rigged game. They just rig it to what would be most exciting and most entertaining. They try and throw in all weight divisions in there, but
just having a look actually at the absolute, I'm looking at the initial bracket.
Yeah,
there is only, out of everyone who was in the absolute. Only one of them, which was Bedoni, was like a gold medalist from their division.
A gold medalist? Yeah. Well, makes sense. Makes sense. But the absolute was really awesome. It was actually very entertaining to watch the absolute division. And the standout, like unquestionably the standout from absolute, was definitely Ty Rotolo.
Yeah, I mean, he took out Pedro Marino in the first round, then he beat Felipe Pena, and then he lost a referee's decision to Marigali.
Yeah.
But
in that Marigali fight, look, this is another one of those ones. You know how I was talking about the Isaac Michelle fight, and I was like, oh, Isaac should have won. At the end of it, I was like, oh, Ty should have won. But if you watch it objectively, rewatch it, you're like, okay, all right, I see why they gave it to Marigali. But a moment in that fight, if you haven't seen it, this is obviously spoilers the whole throughout, is...
If someone's made it this far...
oh, what the fuck? Spoilers, man. The moment when Ty cinched up his DAS, like the infamous Rotolo DAS, I thought Marigali was going to go out. I thought, because Marigali obviously didn't tap, and the grimace on Marigali's face, it was deep. It was on. There was... Undoubtedly, it was on. And, if he could have finished that, things would have been exciting. I wanted to see Ty win that so badly.
I'm a massive Marigali fan, though. I know a lot of people hate him, but I really like him.
I definitely don't hate him.
And
is it because of his controversial, like flipping people off and that
I
sort
don't
of
know,
shit?
man. I actually don't know why people hate him. I assume it's because he's one of those people who like gets sort of angry, psyched up before he competes, But I don't know Marigali that well. I've met him a handful of times. I've spoken to him on the phone even less times. And
just randomly call him up, hey, bro.
Yeah, hey, remember me? No, but you're free to chat. And, he's always seemed very nice and very polite. And I've never had, he seems like a really nice dude. And
Yeah.
I've got friends, so, you know, Fab from Alliance Northern Beaches, he's a good friend of Marigali's. And so, I really like him. So,
Yeah.
in saying that, if I had met Ty in person, I probably would have been like, I like Ty too. I don't care who wins. I just happen to know Marigali better. And I like his jiu-jitsu. It's way more applicable to my body type as well. I can't do what the Rotolo brothers do, bro.
Yeah, true.
Man,
No one can do what the Rotolo brothers do.
The end of the fight with Marigali, Ty was still just as if he was 10 seconds into the match. Like, dude, their gas tank is get fucked.
Yeah.
Not like, man.
And Marigali in comparison was fucking wrecked.
Just don't stop.
Yeah, dude.
Ever.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Ever. It's crazy. Like, I think, you know, let's imagine we're on the same world as those guys and you're competing against them. My strategy would have to be, it wouldn't matter. Like, even if I was Gordon Ryan, my strategy would be, if I don't sub you in the first 5 minutes, I'm fucked, bro, because you don't stop.
Yeah, and their pace, like, their pace just increases.
Crazy.
Like, toward the end, in overtime, for those that haven't seen it, like, Ty looked like he was gaining in speed, like gaining in ferocity, and just, man, it's so impressive that he was able to go the distance with Marigali regardless. And the fact that he nearly won, even more impressive. I think Ty Rotolo, man, so much respect for that guy. He's a fucking weapon. Yeah. And both of them, obviously, but man, so cool.
And just to round it out, let's give a shout out to Craig Jones for the meme of, you know, the one where they're celebrating on the podium like you won, but you're second place.
Second place.
Yeah,
well, he lived up to his reputation, man.
Know. I mean, obviously deep down would definitely be a bit gutted, and I'm definitely gutted for him. I would have loved for Craig to get that ADCC win. I didn't watch the video, but I saw a video titled with Craig, like, it's now or never ADCC.
I watched it, yeah.
Which I assume he was talking about, you know, this might be the last, not as in he's too old to compete, but just the young people coming through. I assume he was talking about, I feel like this year is if I'm going to win one, this year would be my best chance.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
I don't think it's over for him. I mean, look at Yuri, who won Absolute still. Yuri's been around for a while. Like, Wagner Hoscher still did awesome. I don't think you can say that Craig can't win the 2024 ADCC. But
you can't say that.
I just would have liked to see him get it this time.
I think in his mind, he had the best shot was now. Which, I mean, he did do fucking really well. It's just unfortunate the way the final played out against Kieren. Like, man, I kind of was avoiding it because long story short, let's not go there because we'll spend 20 minutes of Kieren being depressed. He hated that fight. He hates Kieren. He thinks he thinks Kienen's the reason people don't want to watch jiu-jitsu. I sent you a voice message saying all this. I was going to play it on the air. I thought better not because there's a lot of
that's the summary. Kieren hated the fight. He hates Kieren. All right.
So I sent you a message and it was like literally just 30 seconds of me just swearing like, fuck this guy.
He was angry.
I was so mad. It was so boring, man. Holy shit. But man,
great event.
There's so many fights that I wanted to mention, like the Gary Tonin.
Too late, out of time. They'll come up in future episodes.
AJ, fucking
Jeremy. We spoke a little
the
about
controversy between them and AJ's fucking social media bullshit afterwards.
Yeah, fuck him.
Man, there's so much awesomeness that came out of this ADCC. So super happy with how it played out. It was everything we wanted.
Probably the best thing out of this ADCC was this episode. And if you like it was sick. Great event. Yeah. Look forward to the next one. Guys, we're out of here. We're out of time. Over time. As always, Instagram @BeyondJiujitsu_podcast. If you want to go the step further, we have our Patreon and everything. All the links are in our bio. Episodes are up on whatever listening platform, on YouTube, whatever, wherever you can find us. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.